Imagine this. It's August 1914. The air is thick with excitement, not fear. Young men, barely out of their teens, are flocking to recruitment offices across Europe. In London, in Berlin, in Paris, the scene is the same. There are parades in the streets, women throwing flowers, and a sense of adventure that feels almost like a festival. Why? Because they've been told a glorious lie. They've been promised the war will be over by Christmas. This wasn't just a whisper. Tea was a roar. Newspapers, politicians, even generals were all echoing the same sentiment. You'll be home before the leaves have fallen from the trees, one German leader famously declared. It was supposed to be a short, sharp, decisive conflict. A quick adventure to teach the other side a lesson, and then home in time to celebrate the holidays as heroes. So, who was he? The one promised a swift victory. He was every man. He was a British factory worker from Manchester, a French farmer from the Loire Valley, a German student from Munich. He was your great-grandfather or your great-great-uncle. He packed his bag with a sense of duty and a touch of youthful arrogance, completely unaware of the industrial-scale slaughter that awaited him. The belief in a short war wasn't just wishful thinking. It was rooted in the military doctrines of the time. For decades, European powers had been obsessed with the idea of rapid mobilization and overwhelming offense. Germany had the Schlieffen Plan, meticulously detailed strategy to knock France out of the war in just 6 weeks by sweeping through Belgium before turning their full might against Russia. The French had planned 17, an all-out offensive into the lost territories of Alsace-Lorraine. Everyone had a plan for a knockout blow. No one had a plan for a 4-year stalemate. These plans were built on the experiences of previous 19th century wars, like the Franco-Prussian War, which were relatively short. Generals believed that modern economies couldn't sustain a long conflict anyway. The intricate web of global trade would collapse, nations would go bankrupt, and the war would have to end. They were right about the economic strain, but they underestimated one crucial factor: the sheer stubbornness of human will and the horrifying efficiency of new technology. So, the young men marched off. Their letters home from August and September are filled with optimism. They talk about long marches, the strange new sights, and the certainty that they'll be seeing their families soon. They complain about the rain and the mud, but their spirit is high. They believe they are part of a great, heroic undertaking. The idea of spending years in a waterlogged trench was simply unthinkable. It wasn't part of the story they'd been sold, okay? But then, the plans began to fail. The German advance was halted at the Battle of the Marne in September. The race to the sea began as both sides tried to outflank each other, digging in as they went. The rapid war of movement ground to a halt. Suddenly, the landscape was being scarred by a new feature. The trench, crude ditch at first, but one that would soon evolve into a complex, nightmarish maze stretching from the Swiss border to the North Sea. As autumn set in, the leaves fell from the trees, just as the German leader had predicted. But the men weren't going home. Instead, they were digging deeper into the cold, wet earth. The initial optimism started to curdle into a grim reality. The enemy wasn't a caricature to be easily defeated. They were men just like them, armed with machine guns and artillery that could tear through lines of advancing soldiers with terrifying ease. The machine gun, in particular, turned the battlefield into a meat grinder. A single, well-placed gun could hold off hundreds of attacking infantrymen. This defensive firepower was something the old generals, trained in the art of the cavalry charge, simply didn't understand. Their tactics were obsolete, but they kept ordering the same futile, head-on assaults. The cost in human lives was staggering. By November, the reality of trench warfare was undeniable. The letters home change in tone. The bravado is gone, replaced by a weary longing for home, for warmth, for an end to the constant noise of the guns. Sickness became as big a threat as bullets. Trenchfoot, a horrible condition caused by standing in cold, stagnant water, became rampant. Lice, rats, and the stench of death were constant companions. Christmas was approaching. But instead of marching home in victory parades, soldiers were trying to make their trenches a little more bearable. They decorated their dugouts with whatever they could find. They received parcels from home with cakes, warm socks, and chocolate small comforts from a world that now seemed a million miles away. The promise felt like a cruel joke. And then something extraordinary happened. On Christmas Eve of 1914, along parts of the Western Front, the guns fell silent. It started spontaneously. German soldiers began placing small Christmas trees, Tannenbaums, on the parapets of their trenches and started singing carols. British soldiers, hearing Still Note, Silent Night, drift across the shell-pocked wasteland of no man's land, responded with their own carols. Slowly, cautiously, soldiers emerged from their trenches. Not to fight, but to greet each other. They shook hands in the middle of no man's land, the very ground they had been trying to kill each other on just hours before. They exchanged gifts, buttons, cigarettes, German beer for British plum pudding. They showed each other pictures of their families. They even played football matches. For one brief, magical day, the war stopped. The soldiers saw each other not as the Hun or Tommy, but as fellow human beings caught in the same absurd, tragic situation. They were all just men who had been promised they'd be home for Christmas. Of course, the high command on both sides was furious. They issued strict orders forbidding any fraternization with the enemy. The war had to go on, and it did. The truce was an unofficial, fleeting moment of peace in a conflict that would rage for 4 more brutal years. It would claim millions more lives. The war wouldn't be over by next Christmas or the Christmas after that. The over by Christmas myth died a hard death in the mud of 1914. It serves as a powerful, tragic reminder of the gap between the propaganda of war and its horrifying reality. It highlights the naive optimism that propelled a generation into the abyss, an optimism that was shattered against the barbed wire and machine guns of the Western Front. The story of the Christmas truce, born from the ashes of that broken promise, is a testament to the enduring humanity that can flicker even in the darkest of times. But it also underscores the tragedy. These men could share a song and a smile one day and be ordered to kill each other the next. The war machine was far more powerful than a moment of shared peace. Looking back, we see the folly of it all, the intricate plans that failed, the outdated tactics, the underestimation of modern weaponry. The promise of a short war wasn't just a mistake. It was a catastrophic failure of imagination by the leaders who sent millions to their deaths. It's a lesson we must never forget. The first casualty of war is always the truth. And sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones we desperately want to believe. Thank you for watching. If you found this story moving, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more dives into the fascinating and often tragic stories from our history. See you next time.